Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. Are you an author, speaker, coach, or entrepreneur building a brand in today's very crowded marketplace? How do you stand out? Join me on September 27th and share 97 minutes of your time for just $97 and learn how to empower your brand message and shine as a guest on podcasts. iHeart's doing it. Spotify's doing it. You should do it too. Join me and spend 97 minutes of your time for just $97. You can find the registry link in the show notes. Hope to see you there. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Bonnie Surie. She is a women's intuitive self-relation expert and breakthrough mentor. Welcome, Bonnie. I am so excited and honored to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me here.
It is my pleasure and my honor. I am so excited to jump in and share about the beautiful light you put out into the world through the work you're doing and a little bit about your story and your journey. So with that being said, let us jump right in and get things started. Bonnie, how long have you been doing this work as a mentor, working with women, and why have you decided to make this your mission and solely focus your business on helping to empower women?
We could break that up just a little.
Sure.
It hasn't always looked this way. It hasn't always been mentoring. I was coaching, where I was coaching people through the transformation that I had experienced in a significant emotional event in my life. And I thought, gosh, if I can go through this transformation, then I can help others go through it. So it started there. And then I was gifted an opportunity to kind of go deeper into a different type of coaching. And that was facilitating Bob Proctor's material, Thinking into Results. Mm-hmm. And then I was guided, I guess you could say, to go deeper than that, where that was a superficial approach to the work I do now. So I've been doing this since 2015.
And when did the Bob Proctor stuff come in?
It was actually later 2015. Okay. I got the opportunity to attend one of his seminars. And during a break, a guest like myself, asked the facilitator I think he was trying to ask, how can I take this information and implement it? I was just given a lot of stuff, really thoughtful. How do I implement it? And I was watching him talk to the facilitator, and I was hearing things and seeing things that he wasn't saying. And they were kind of talking at each other. And I said, do you mind if I give some feedback based off of what I just heard? And he's like, sure, yes, please. And so I just kind of articulated back to him the things he wasn't saying, but what I was hearing. And the facilitator was like, oh my gosh, how long have you been doing this? I'm like, I'm a student. I am just here to learn. And then later that day, Bob's right-hand man and this facilitator invited me back to be a facilitator at the next seminar. And I returned 4 months later and I facilitated. And then Bob asked me if I would coach his program. I got to see the background stuff. I got to see how it all worked, what goes into those seminars and everything else. So that's how his stuff kind of came in.
That's pretty incredible. I have to say, I absolutely love that you use the terms expert and mentor as opposed to the typical or common term of coach, which you said you were using previously. You called yourself a coach. So I'm curious, why did you decide to shift away from using the term coach? And was it a conscious decision on your part to not use the term coach?
Again, it was very guided and now I can see what was happening. In the moment, I didn't understand. I was just going with what you could say a hunch. And it was in 2000, I just had this feeling like I need to stop doing Bob Proctor's work and coaching and working with people the way I have. I just know there's something deeper. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what that even meant. So I made the decision that I'm going to stop taking in new clients that year, that I'm not doing any trainings. I'm not doing any events. And I was just present. And people were like, what are you doing? Like, of course you need clients. Of course you need, it was really honestly a feeling. And then it was the end of 2019 where I had a channeling experience, I guess you could say, where I was just like, I have no idea what just happened. And that blew the lid off of everything I was doing and took me into a whole new field of work. And no, it wasn't a conscious decision to change from coach to mentor. But I did know that when I was working with Bob's material, it's extremely foundational. It's relevant. It's important. But I knew that I needed to go deeper, that there was so much that was being missed that needed to be addressed and looked at. And for me, I felt it more in the life journey aspect, the individual, like, why are we here? What are these meanings? What does this mean about me? The shadow work, if you will, in different ways. I didn't have any of this language. These were just things I was feeling, already doing, and not knowing I was doing, right? So a conscious decision, no, but just willing to kind of trust what I was feeling.
Being open to receiving.
Yeah.
And allowing it to come through. So was that channeling that you experienced, was that like the catalyst for the shift for you, would you say? Or was there another catalyst?
Okay. So I had two different points. My first point, can I go in and share my story?
Please do.
Okay. So my first point of change was in 2010. It was Easter 2010. It was my significant emotional event, my sudden moment of realization. I lived with my parents, my husband and I. We had 3 kids, all under the age of 5. We relied heavily on the state for food and medical. Jumped to temp job and I wanted the house. I wanted the car. I wanted the finance, the money. I wanted the freedom. I wanted a lifestyle and a home outside of that home. And these were all things I wanted. And I just kept feeling like, oh, you got to wait for him. You got to wait for him. And that's what I was hearing. But one Easter morning, my stepdad started recording. He put his tablet on the kitchen counter and was just recording this Easter morning. And later that day, my middle child came running up to me and she says, "Mommy, you're on Grandpa's TV. Come see." I was like, the last thing I want to see is myself on the video. And she started crying. She's real frustrated that I wouldn't. And finally I gave in and I started watching this tablet. And I was like sickened and shocked of what I was seeing. And what I watched was me standing at the kitchen sink. I had my back to the rest of the kitchen, to the rest of the family. My 3 kids were on the floor playing jacks with my mom. She was teaching them how to play jacks with the ball and the spikes. And my stepdad and husband were in the corner, the back corner by the Easter table, talking and eating the goodies. But I watched my same daughter, my middle child, pop up off the floor like a spring. And she ran over to the table and she was looking at eggs. She kept picking up an egg and she looked at it and she put it down. And she picked up another one, looked at it, put it down. She gets on her tippy toes, reaches across the table, and she grabs this egg and she looks at it. She lights up and she runs up behind me. She has this egg in both hands and she's just dancing and she's so excited. And she says, "Mommy, I made this for you, Mommy." And she's saying it over and she's hopping kind of back on one foot to the other. And I'm just ignoring her over and over. And I'm just doing the few dishes that are in the sink. And she says, "Mommy, I made this for you." And I turned around, I smacked the egg out of her hand and I yelled, "I don't care. I don't want it." And I turned back around to do the dishes. Now that egg hit the oven door and just burst, and at her feet, all the pieces. And I watched her. She just looked up at me and you could just see her soul she crumbled just like that egg did. And she bent down and she picked up these big pieces of the egg. And I watched her as she was turning, she kissed the egg and I watched her whisper something to her hands where the pieces of the egg were. And I was just like, what did she just say? What did she just say? And as she walked out of the kitchen, she passed the recording tablet and she said, "It's okay. Grammy says Mommy loves me." Oh. And I thought, wait a second. Grammy says Mommy loves me? When was the last time I told them I love them, where they weren't a chore for me? I was so stuck in what I thought was a meaningful life, what you were supposed to have. And if you didn't have that, then you were radically failing. I was so stuck in all these meanings and expectations that I thought needed to be in place for any kind of significance of your existence. And I had these 3 moments come to me, and I was like, these ideas, I was like, my options are I could literally run away. I could tell my family I'm going to the store, and I can just try to go start life somewhere else, right? Because running from yourself and life is absolutely the answer.
Yeah.
I could wait for change. I could take my own life. That was something that I thought about all the time, or I could change. And that was like this feeling of, but wait, can I change? I can change. And it was in that moment that I realized I didn't want to take my life. I was so curious about the future and everything and what it would be. Of course, I didn't want to go, but I knew I wanted something in my life to die, something in my life to end. And so I made the decision that I've got to change. I don't know how this is going to work. And so that was my first pivotal moment in really shifting me, my lifestyle, my mind, even my body. I once tipped the scale at 300 pounds. And I thought, if I lose the weight, then I'll be happy. If I make sure husband's happy, then I'll be happy. If I make sure kiddos are happy, I'll be happy.
Exactly.
All these things that I thought and heard are far from the truth when it comes to happiness.
Yep.
So that was one of my very first moments as an adult where it was a catalyst for change. And
That's
so
huge.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. And so I was just going to answer the other part of that with the channeling experience, right? That was the catalyst for change as an adult doing the work I'm doing now. And it was at the end of 2019, funny enough, that year that I just knew something was going to be there. I had no idea what it looked like. It was just more of a feeling that I couldn't necessarily articulate. And I went to this giant potluck at this woman's house. I knew the host and I knew my friend I was going with. I didn't know anybody else. I was overwhelmed with how many people were there in this home. And I was just like, how more people are coming in? And I made my way to a back room just to kind of rebalance, get some air, if you will. And this woman, there was like maybe 5 or 6 people there, and a woman walked in. And the second she walked in, I felt like this electricity go through my body. And if you can imagine when you know you're being like electrocuted, and it's not painful, but it's buzzy. And it was, I would say, it was high pitched. It was a higher frequency.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what was going on. She stopped and stood in front of me and introduced herself. I said to her, I looked her right in the eyes and I said to her, our children will always force the space they need between us if we don't give them the room they need to grow. But usually they'll come back when they're ready. I didn't know this woman. I had no idea where that even came from because there was zero thought involved. And she's staring at me with tears just streaming down her face. And she said, oh my God, my daughter just turned 21 years old. She left a note on the kitchen table and she said, Mom, you're suffocating me. I don't know who I am. I'm going to go find me, but I'll come back and introduce her to you when I find her. And I was just like, I don't even know how I knew that. And it was exhilarating. And the fascinating thing to me was there was zero thought in it. It just came out.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So that was the catalyst into the deeper experiences and the other layer of work that I do with my clients now.
So what would you say was the biggest or most valuable takeaway or lesson from those 2 experiences for you?
Change is possible. Change is possible. And change is extremely uncomfortable because there's so much unknown. So when I was changing the first time in 2010, that was a change it was a different level of mindset work, of my beliefs about me, of life, of what I could and couldn't do. And I had to realize that going through that consistency, building those habits to really change my dialogue and relationship with myself, that activating of willpower, if you will, was uncomfortable, but not as uncomfortable as living with all the doubts and the discomforts of suppression, if you will. The other type of discomfort that I got really familiar with was, I must be crazy, right? The vulnerability was definitely my biggest lesson in the spiritual, the mediumship, psychic experiences, the intuitive aspect of the work I do, because you have to get rid of the fear. You've got to be able to work through the fear of potential humiliation, potentially being wrong, where in the session, I'm saying things, I'm feeling things. It doesn't make sense to the client right here. But then 2 days later, they come back and they're like, guess what? Or something like that. We're both ego parts of me, right? One where I needed to be a victim and then shift into empowerment, and the other where I was afraid of being wrong and being willing to trust a gift, something that, and I don't want to say a gift, that I gently use the word gift because I believe we're all capable of this, right?
Yeah, sure.
To bring it out and to say, this is something I do, especially when my husband's agnostic. That was challenging.
I'm sure. Absolutely. Because you're scared of how people are going to react, what they're going to say, and all of the things that go along with that. It's a fine line to walk, for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
But having the strength and the courage to come out and share it, that's huge.
Yeah. Courage is powerful there, because I would get signs. I would get that guidance, if you will. And then it would, in the beginning, it's okay, give me one more, just so I know that one's right. But later, like as I really continued to develop this relationship with what was unfolding within me, I realized that I wasn't looking for another sign. I wasn't even ready for another sign. What I was looking for was the courage within myself to follow through with that. So yeah,
trusting and allowing.
It's a big space for sure.
Yeah. What drives, motivates, and inspires you to keep going and excelling at all that you do, Bonnie?
Brad, people are extraordinary. Life is extraordinary, and we're so blinded by it so easily. And it's this external, like, scavenger hunt and race. And it's really every answer you've wanted is here. And it's really within understanding yourself, like that relationship with yourself. When you can be present in your life for you, and you can understand you and genuinely have a relationship with yourself like you would want with somebody you deeply love, a best friend, your partner, your children, or somebody. When you can develop that type of relationship with yourself, then you can experience life instead of exist and drag yourself through life.
And that's what so many people do. And that relationship with self is hands down the most important and longest standing relationship we'll ever have in our lives. It lasts longer than any relationship you'll ever have. Yes. Is that one with self. It's the most important one.
Absolutely.
No other relationship is above that one. None.
Everywhere you go, there you are.
Yep, exactly. And how do you define self-relationship, and why is it so crucial for women today, do you think?
Self-relationship is the relationship. For me, my definition would be the ideas of yourself in all aspects, regardless of whether or not you think that they're good or bad. So it's especially with the roles. So it's so critical and important because of all the roles and expectations that is placed upon somebody. And I think the majority is women when it comes to the amount of roles we actually do have and tasks and responsibility. And I'm not saying that this isn't true for men as well, but it tends to be right now a lot for women. And you've got the role of the wife or the partner, the role of the mother or caretaker, the role, the daughter, every role, every title comes with a set of expectations that other people place on you. Because if you don't fulfill them, then they're not happy with you. You're disappointing them. You're causing discomfort in their life as a result of you not fulfilling that role. And all these roles and expectations and trying to be everything for everyone else, because of these titles, it is so easy to absolutely abandon the role of self. Who am I? And how can I bring self into these roles in a way that's authentic instead of deflating, instead of exhausting my life force, my energy. And that's why I feel like it's so essential for women to be able to identify their life force, them first, and then find the ways, work with the ways of being those roles, but always bringing self into them.
Yeah. I mean, women constantly put themselves on the back burner. They put everybody else ahead of themselves. And then there's nothing left for them. And that needs to shift. And I think we're starting to see a shift where women are realizing, wait a minute, this is not good for me, because we're seeing so much burnout and all of these other things. And it needs to shift. And that comes with the self-awareness, that comes with the space, the self-allowance to do it and to step into it and to own it.
Yes.
Which isn't easy, because there's all the conditioning, societal pressures, all of these things that have been baked into women over the decades, the centuries, whatever you want to call it, the years and years of conditioning. So it's hard to break that.
Yes. But I think when women start to question, when women start to get fed up, when they start to get frustrated, when they realize I am done tolerating feeling this way, like that powerful anger, like frustrated moment of what is the point? And that is the power of it. That's that moment of power, because then they're faced with the decision. I keep going like this. I know what the future holds for me. I know what it feels like. Or I entertain this idea of there's got to be something else. There's got to be something more to me. Something has got to change. And when you're in that space of realizing that it's your responsibility to make a decision, even indecision is a decision, I can be empowered, or I can continue to be a victim and just be aware that I don't like the way this feels.
But you're the only one who can do something about it. The individual is the only person who can change it. And I think that when women see other women standing up and doing it, there's the permission slip for others to step into it.
And I like that you bring up the permission slip, because at one point there was a fear of being pushed out of the tribe, right? And so we can see, though, now that by finding your way that works for you and doing it authentically and knowing that and showing up into the world, you're actually saying, I'm leaving a tribe of suppression, if you will, but I'm creating my new tribe, because now come with me, or you can do this too. And surely people will be there for you. Oh my gosh, it's so expansive. Yes, it's so much leading by example.
Yep, for sure. Obviously, transformation is a big part of this. You're helping these women transform their lives through the work you do. I'm curious to hear what roles self-awareness and introspection play in the process of transformation, and how do you encourage these women to cultivate the qualities? And what do you believe is the most significant misconception that women have about the process of transformation?
We're going to start with that answer first. The misconception of the process of transformation is that it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, right? It's going to be easy. Things are going to start to flow. You hear these really whimsical ideas. Inner work is the hard work. Physical work is far easier than doing the inner work. I make sure that my clients know this. If you don't like physical work, there's a good chance you're not going to like this work either. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions that really needs to be brought to light whenever you say yes to that transformational experience, because there is a huge shedding, if you will.
Yeah.
The hardest aspect of it is the vulnerability, the level of vulnerability. Because logically, we're going to have to address your hidden rule book that you've created for yourself. So where logically, for example, some of the work we go through is that hidden rule book and the process work, the expectations you're setting on others for you. So when I first went through that, I didn't want to admit that if my best friend or a family member, even a client, went to somebody else for advice on a certain area or insight, and then they would come and tell me about it and be excited. I wanted to be excited for them, but a part of me was like, why didn't you just come to me for that? I had to identify what that actually meant. And so when you go into the rule book, my rule book was, I need you to come to me for everything so that I feel important, validated. And then we have to go below that. Well, why is it important for me to feel validated from other people? Isn't it great that they have these resources? Yeah, the vulnerability, it's a massive vulnerability shift. And there's so much freedom once you're finally able to say, logically, I don't want to feel this way, but emotionally, I'm feeling this way. And that's really where that transformation work comes in, because we're afraid of what that might mean about us.
Yep. The uncovering.
Yes.
In your experience, what are some of the most common obstacles or challenges that women face when embarking on the transformational path in the women you work with? And how do you help them overcome these?
Communication. It's the most common factor, especially like 90% of the women I work with, and I do work with some men, it's just more common that women reach out to me, is communicating with their partner in a more truthful space. We say we want the truth. Tell me the truth. I love truth. Truth creates radical discomfort. And so for the clients, for these women, it's being able to articulate to their partner, finally, I have new rules of how I can be treated, or I actually need your help. I haven't asked in the past, or I'm feeling this, even though I'm feeling it and you're not saying it, I'm still feeling it. So it feels real to me. Can we talk about it? Mm-hmm. Just being able to communicate, learning to communicate in a different way with their partner, to be able to show what they're going through. You're opening up your own world to somebody that most often we see, you have created a world around them. And that's what you show them. I'm here for you. I am here for you. And I don't want to say slave to you, but I'm at your beck and call. And so now it's at a place of, I'm an individual, you're an individual. I'm going on my life journey. You're going on your life journey. And together we come together. Can we come together and have these conversations and be okay if our opinions are different? If our perspectives are different, can we still be okay?
Yeah.
So it is that radical, vulnerable communication, because this is a part of accepting, okay, this is part of my authentic self, and I want to share this with you. And getting over the fear of rejection, the fear of the potential abandonment, push out, freak out moment, explosion that might happen as a result of expressing a truth. That's uncomfortable.
For sure. Absolutely. What role does intuition play in your mentoring practice, and how do you help women tap into their internal wisdom?
For me, when I use it with my clients, generally they have a specific challenge that they're wanting to work through during our time together, whether that be their personal life, relationship, their weight, their anything, and into their professional life. And when they start telling me what they think was going on and everything else, I start to see images, I hear words, I get what I say false memories. So I'm experiencing a memory that they had in their lifetime that wasn't mine, that absolutely connects and pertains to this challenge, right? And so I use my intuition by pulling in all this stuff that doesn't make sense and then sharing with them during our sessions, kind of unfolding. So when you say this, I heard something here.
Yeah.
I heard a timeline. I heard a number. I heard this. What does that mean to you? And there are moments where they're just like, oh my gosh, you're right. I was this age and something like this did happen. And oh my gosh, I never would have thought. And then there's all these points of connection.
Yeah.
So that's how I use it, and how I get women to really realize that they know their answers. And it's all about coming back to self. Again, you've got to be willing to trust. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I know, but I know. I don't know why I'm feeling this, but I am. I don't know why I think I need to do this. Doesn't make sense. It's completely illogical, but I do. So I get them to become very curious instead of attached to a possible outcome. And when you can become curious, oh, I wonder what this means. You can also, what I have them do is anybody I ever talk to, Have you ever had that experience where you had that little voice tell you to do something or not to do something and you ignored it and you're like, crap, I knew I should have done it. So there's always points of evidence in the lifeline, if you will, that says, I've got intuition, I've got connection to unknown. And so now it's just intentionally being willing to pause and go in and listen to that.
It's been, I think, again, going back to speaking about conditioning, it's in so many of us, it's been tamped down so far that we don't even realize that it's there. And so it's a matter of, I think, reaching down inside and pulling it out and learning to trust and allow it to come through when it does, and actually listening when we get the signs, when we get the, I wouldn't do that, or listening to that little voice. It takes practice. It takes work to get there, but it's within all of us. It's just, I think it's been buried below so much shit because of what we've gone through in our lives, the conditioning, all of these things that have buried it. We forget it's even there.
To add on to that, we're taught to communicate with words, with the human body. We're taught to use that. And really, intuition is a different type of listening. It's not necessarily verbal. And so when you can so I'm able to work with my clients and teach them these signs, like here's physical signs, senses that aren't making sense, but how to communicate with intuition, if you will. And when it's coming through, to know what to look for. And so there's like this practicing pauses, practicing like a self-scan, if you will, right? So it is learning a new language that uses different senses.
For sure. How do you help your clients navigate through self-doubt and fear when they're seeking breakthroughs?
I believe that we always have the answer to our breakthroughs. And one of my favorite things to do with my clients is say, okay, tell me about how you can visualize and see it on the other end of this, how you're wanting it to be. And so they're talking to me. I begin to interview them and I say, okay, so now you're there and I'm going to interview you and ask you how you got there. So we go through an interview process, and through this interview process, they think they're making it up, but what they're doing is creating a blueprint that they've been looking for to use the body to take action to get through onto that other point. So whenever at the end of this, we call it like a fear or doubt interview breakthrough, it's getting the client to tap into that version of themselves that is there for sure, because they can feel the potential, the call to create and have this experience. There's fear and doubt that are potential barriers of fear or pauses, like I can't get through. And so I interview them. What did you have to start doing? You're this, and that. This is your life. This is your reality. At what point did you realize you had to stop doing something, or you had to start doing something? And so just by being able to ask them open questions to where they're able to see themselves as capable, Brad, just as well as I do, our dialogue with ourselves is powerful, powerful. And so I interview yourself as if you were already in that space and you're being interviewed of how in the heck did you go from this to that? We're natural storytellers.
Yes, we are.
We're going to create a blueprint for yourself, and it's fun.
I love that idea. That's brilliant. I got to try that. What are some of the most common barriers that women face in developing a healthy self-relationship?
Some of the common barriers in developing that healthy relationship is being overwhelmed by everything they think is involved, all the steps, everything that has to change. And there's that compound effect idea that once you just start doing one thing, then that one thing kind of leads you into that next thing naturally. And so it's helping them to realize we're not going from A to Z, and these are not check boxes, right? Getting rid of that overwhelming anxiety of already feeling like I'm so far behind. I already need to be at Y or Z. Working through that willingness to start at A and then take the step into B when it unfolds for you.
One step at a time.
That's it. So now we have A and now we have B, and it happened very naturally. And now that we're at B, C has presented itself, and let's work with C now.
Patience is part of that process, and not looking at the whole staircase, because looking at the entire staircase is going to cause overwhelm. Look at one step at a time in the staircase. That's it. And be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace and space around it.
Yes.
Trust and allow.
Yes.
That it will unfold. How can women learn to trust their intuition more deeply, especially within a society that often values logic over intuition?
Yeah. Good luck. No, I'm just kidding.
I wish you luck on that journey.
I believe that educating yourself on the resources we have around physics, the ability of the human eyes and brain, what it can and cannot do and perceive. One of the biggest points of wow to me that really helped me get more playful and curious with trusting, like these things that don't make sense. The intuition is remembering that your eyes can only pick up like a fraction. I think it's like 0.6%, something smaller, or maybe 1% of anything that is actually in this room with us now. We see all these, what we think are tangible objects, but our eyes aren't showing us the light waves. Our eyes aren't showing us the sound waves. Our eyes aren't showing us the full color spectrum that's actually there. Our eyes aren't showing us all that. There's so much information that our eyes and body just isn't designed to pick up and see. They're there. And so it's the willingness to say, my eyes aren't seeing this, but I'm feeling this, and becoming curious about it, like becoming the scientist of, okay, and being willing to play with it. That play and that curiosity it's key. It is so key.
For sure. Curiosity. Absolutely. Just ask the questions. Revert back to being a kid. Kids ask tons of questions.
Oh my gosh.
So do that.
Yes.
What are some common misconceptions around self-relationship that you encounter, and how do you address them when they come up?
One of the biggest misconceptions that I come across often is that self-relationship is like confidence. Okay, so if I have a self-relationship or a good self-relationship, then I have confidence. Self-relationship is deep. There are so many, we might say, compartments, categories to it. It's a wholeness. It's broad. And working through that is realizing, okay, so this is your relationship with the ideas you have about yourself, with the agreements that you have about yourself, with your beliefs, with your past, with who you've been, with what you've done, with what you're carrying, with all of it. The self-relationship doesn't stop at the confidence. Confidence is actually something that's more of a skill, right? When you're so skilled at something and you've done it so well, then you become confident in the information that you have, that you could teach it. And which is funny, where you would want self-confidence. So where's my skill at knowing myself so well, my true self so well, that I can show that to people, right?
Yeah. Why do you believe that cultivating a strong self-relationship is foundational for personal and professional success?
That cultivating of the self-relationship for personal and professional success. So if you don't have this connection, this relationship with yourself, you're going to go for others for images, ideas about what your goals or future or life journey should look like. And part of the challenge with that is you could fulfill that image that they have for you, but then you have to wait until they give you a new image or a new idea. And so you're constantly looking and trying to get information from others about yourself. And that's confusing because others are experiencing you differently and you're showing yourself differently to others, different people. So it's no map and no GPS system and trying to get somewhere when the map of self is here. Let me go into my vision and let me walk down that path versus now let me go ask dad what he hoped for me when I was younger or whatever, or mom or whoever. Yeah. You're just going to play ping pong for a long time.
That's a tough game by yourself, running back and forth to each side of the table. You know you better than anybody else.
That's it.
What are the 3 most valuable lessons that you've learned along the way in your coaching journey and working with all the women you work with?
3 valuable lessons. When I first started the journey of wanting to help people. It was very authentic. If I could do it, they could do it. When I shifted into doing the work with Bob, I was in a different environment, and materialism and having to be the smartest person in the room basically was important. I learned that by being willing to share those vulnerable mistakes, those vulnerable stories that you're afraid of sharing because of what others might think of you, takes the level of trust in that mentoring and coaching and even just soul to soul, human to human relationship to depths that weren't even possible on that surface level of trying to hide those errors. So that first lesson of it's okay to expose what you've done on your life journey and make sure people know that you're human too.
Yeah.
Do not try to hide that. Do not try to hide that. That is the texture and the color and the vibrancy of life right there is in those errors, in those learning experiences. So that is by far the biggest lesson I've learned. One of the second lessons I've learned is to see people as soul and to see people as human at the same time, where I hear what they're telling me, but I know their heart is telling them something different. So realizing it's the battle between the head and the heart, and silence, pause.
The power of the pause.
Power of the pause, and being willing to be uncomfortable in that pause, because that's where the things that you're hiding hang out. You tend to fight with them and choose which one you're going to decide to share. And definitely don't share those ones, right? I'll be willing to pick a piece here and share that. But the power of that pause is where breakthroughs hang out.
What is one tip or takeaway that you could share with listeners that they can implement immediately to start embracing and leaning more into their intuition and reconditioning their mind for the success and transformation that they want?
Start journaling. Journaling to me is just like this fluid, conscious relationship with the universe, with divine. It's so personal and sacred and universal at the same time. It's this conversation that's happening. You might think to yourself, but outwardly. And when you're done journaling, even if it's just a brain dump where you've got so much on your mind and you just write it all down, it's almost as though you've just been held by a parent, if you will, and they say, and it's okay, and keep going, you're doing great. It's such a relief. Start journaling. You're going to learn so much about you. And in those journaling moments, you're going to find a higher version of yourself guiding you as well in your writing. Journaling is powerful. It is so powerful.
For sure. How do you stay inspired and continue to grow in your own personal and professional journey?
Staying inspired is realizing that if I withhold from what I know is my gift and this gift that I was meant to share, then I've been given nothing, essentially, because I'm not utilizing it. I'm not sharing it. The gifts we have are meant to be shared.
Yes, 100%. That's why they're there, is to share them with the world, because they're not for you primarily. They're for everyone around you. And it's your duty to share them with the world so that they can benefit from them.
That's it. That's it. You're unfolding that development, that version of you you wish you could be lies in the journey of sharing your gifts.
Who in your life, Bonnie, has had the biggest impact on you and why?
Wow. Brad, when I actually came across that in the questionnaire, I was hit with the reminder that I am somebody who has, for whatever reason, people have always believed in me. Of course, I don't want to sound like, that's been your easy path. Everybody's believed in me, come to me, just believed in me. And that has almost been more challenging, because then I feel like, oh my gosh, they have so much belief in me. I feel like I'm on this pedestal. But at the end of the day, it's when my head hits the pillow, it's my thoughts and beliefs of myself that make the most impact. He got me started on the journey. He was that phone call I made when I was like, Dad, I just had an experience and I just need to change. I don't know where to start, but can you help me? My dad.
That's beautiful. Thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing that. Thank you. You need a minute? It's okay.
You know, he is still here. He's still here, and he's still one of my biggest fans.
We need that. We need those super fans.
And one of the biggest challenges with having that fan and that person who sees a vision for you and is excited for you is I went to the extent of that vision he had for me. And I had to learn that anytime I would talk about this spiritual stuff that I was experiencing, Dad didn't understand. And so he would just kind of steer me back to getting back to business.
Yeah.
So I went to that and I had to realize that he got me started and he took me as far as he was capable of mentally, emotionally, physically. And it was up to me to be willing to courage the rest of the way through and to unfold into this was essential. And so is this other part that I have to walk alone. Right.
Sure.
So my dad, definitely my dad.
What is one of your biggest failures or teachable moments, and what did you learn from it?
So I got married when I was 17. I'm still married to my husband. It'll be 20 years this year. I had my first kiddo when I was 18. Parenting. The biggest lesson I learned was that your children's behaviors, where you might feel they're misbehaving or hiding these secrets, don't take that personally. Oh my gosh, they are so curious. They want to know, they want to experience, and they are not telling you, not just because they don't want to get in trouble, right? But because they don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to upset you. And so when my kiddos started getting to that teenage years of telling me that these were things they were doing, or I went through this radical phase of, I can't believe you would do this to me. And I had to go through the unlearning. I went through that fear of, if my children are misbehaving, this is a reflection of me. And that's not true at all. So there was a lot in that. But parenting has been one of the most profound, deep learning experiences I've ever gone through, and realizing I don't own my children. No.
You're just there to guide them.
That's it.
That's all.
And they are their own individual.
Yeah. The rest is up to them. You give them the guidance and the support, and the rest is up to them.
And that is their journey.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
Yeah.
So many parents put their expectations or their dreams onto their kids. What's the word I'm looking for, or the phrase I'm looking for? Living vicariously through our children. I didn't get to do this, so I want you to do it so I can relive that, or I can live that through you. No, that's the wrong. You can't do that, because that's not their path.
And there's so much wisdom in what you just said, because that tells somebody who's on a journey now that might be afraid to begin it, that there are an infinite amount of paths to fulfillment, of joy. And if what your dad or your mom or your parents wanted to do and didn't get to do because they believed it would bring them joy, that doesn't mean if you choose something different that you're not going to find joy on your path.
For sure. For sure. What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I am, some people might say, at a fault, like outrageously hopeful and optimistic. And because of that, I have the ability to help others tap into belief in themselves. I can transfer that. And that gets started on that transformational journey of self-discovery of who am I, what am I here doing, and why? So I think that's one of my superpowers. Yes.
Speaking of success, how do you define that word? What does success mean to you?
To me, success is the willingness to find your way in life that works for you, even if that means losing people along the way. To me, there's a freedom in there where you can release ideas and expectations of others, right? And success is when you can say, this is true and right for me, and I'm going to do it regardless. Free-spirited, if you will.
What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before you learned it? And what was your life like after learning it?
That I am the validation I've looked for, that I've wanted so much from others. It's always been the approval of myself, not the approval from others. What that did was gave me the realization that I don't need to wait for somebody else to approve or to see my vision, that I can have it for myself, and I'm on my own time now.
That's a powerful thing. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
The willingness to take responsibility for your life, to realize that you do have a responsibility and the ability to have a say, to say what goes and what doesn't go to an extent. And empowerment is connecting to that power of courage, of that activating that willpower. Yes, very much.
Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next grouping of questions just be 1, 2, 3, 4-word answer type thing. Okay. How would you describe yourself in one word?
Optimistic.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
My hopefulness.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Vulnerability.
If you had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what song would it be?
Lean on me.
What is one thing you love about yourself that is not related to your physical appearance?
My inner child is still so alive and guiding.
What is one thing you want but cannot buy with money?
Brad, you got me there. One thing I want that I can't buy with money. Immediately I said that is everything, but I'm not absent of all those things. Mm-hmm. Certainty.
That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I threw in a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time, just to throw you a little curveball. If you could take one feeling or one belief and bottle it and give it to people, what would it be?
I know it sounds cliche, but that you're loved. Just that there's this undeniable love.
The highest vibration on the planet.
And you feel it through this journey. And if I could just take that importance and love and just bottle it up, and you could take it out and just shower yourself when you forget, it would be that. It's going to be okay.
What challenge in your life would you say has shaped you the most?
What challenges in my life have shaped me the most?
One challenge. What challenge?
When I was 14, my first goal was to kill myself. And I had taken a massive overdose and went and had seizures back to back because I was in a lot of emotional pain. I didn't really know how to work through that. That shaped me the most because I lived. I didn't die. I wanted to. I tried and I didn't. So that moment, that challenge.
At 14, holy shit.
Here I am.
Grateful that you're here.
Thank you.
What is one lesson that your career has taught you that you think everybody should learn at some point in their life?
That we don't all have to have the same beliefs to be right. Beliefs are almost irrelevant in a way because we have beliefs that are factually incorrect and beliefs that are correct. And the reality is, if you can have a belief that's scientifically incorrect and one that is correct, then it doesn't matter if the belief is wrong or right. The question then becomes, is the belief supportive or not? Yeah.
If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Why did you show up today?
Answer your question.
Because I believe that somebody will hear this podcast, this conversation, and it will give them just enough hope to get started.
Love it. Beautiful. If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
I want to say Lisa Nichols, because the very first personal development book I ever read was hers. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's so many profound and there's so much depth. There's so much depth to her soul, her wisdom that I can feel and see. And I see her try to articulate it. But I genuinely feel like if we were in the same room together, we could communicate. I'll let it sound the way it's going to sound. Energetically, we would have this resonance and there would be this radical understanding. So I would say Lisa Nichols.
All right. She is incredibly powerful. She's such a powerful speaker.
Yes. Yes.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Gosh, again, it would be that advice is that validation you seek is not from others. It's from yourself.
Lee, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your tribe, your people, your corner of the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
I would want to convey the importance of their unique existence, their life journey. All parts of it is unique and important. All puzzle pieces don't touch each other, but one piece in the corner on the far left may not directly touch the one on the top right, but it needs to touch the ones around it. And if you can do that, then you're making a difference. You're part of this puzzle. You're essential. We don't throw any of the pieces of the puzzle out. You're part of this picture. You're important. We need you. We need you to see this bigger picture and to be able to just admire it.
Wonderfully said. Bonnie, thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today. I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of our conversation. You are a beautiful, bright light in this world, and I'm just grateful to be able to call you a friend, to know you, to have you as a member of the Empowerography community. Thank you for taking and making the time to share your inspirational journey and the beautiful light you put out into the world through the work you do. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
My honor and my pleasure. Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Bonnie Surie. She is a women's intuitive self-relationship expert and breakthrough mentor. Thank you so much, Bonnie. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.